She reaches for the shopping cart and stops, her hand frozen in midair. Above the aisle, bright orange pumpkins and cardboard skeletons hang from the ceiling, and a sign reads October Harvest Festival. A cold wave moves through her chest because she is certain it was early spring just a few weeks ago. The missing summer frightens her less than the feeling that the missing summers are accelerating. The question forms before she can stop it. Where did all that time go? And why does it keep going faster? The feeling is so common that we rarely examine it until it startles us in a grocery store aisle. A year in childhood once felt like a vast continent you could never fully explore. Now a year slips through your fingers like water, leaving almost no trace. The obvious answer sits ready and waiting. Time flies when you are busy and full of responsibilities. But the obvious answer collapses the moment you meet someone overworked, who still says the year felt interminable. Business alone cannot explain why time speeds up, so something deeper must be shifting. That deeper shift changes the way your mind records the days and the way it retrieves them later. Psychologists who study time perception distinguish between two clocks that tick inside every human being. The first clock runs while you are living through an event, and it measures how fast the present moment feels. The second clock runs when you look back and estimate how long a period feels in memory. The grocery store shock belongs mainly to the second clock, the retrospective judgment of elapsed time. When you try to remember where the summer went, you are not measuring seconds, but sifting through stored moments. A 10-year-old trying to remember the past summer can retrieve dozens of distinct scenes. The first cannonball into a cold lake, learning to ride a bike without training wheels, the smell of a new library book. A 40-year-old trying to remember the past summer may recall a single barbecue, a handful of late work nights, and a lot of mornings that looked identical. The number of separate memory landmarks determines how long a stretch of time feels when we look back. This is the landmark theory of retrospective time estimation, and it is one of the most solid explanations we have. Childhood feels enormous in memory because childhood is dense with first experiences that the brain treats as major events. Adulthood feels compressed in memory because adulthood often repeats the same routines until the days blend together. To test this, researchers ask people to keep diaries and later estimate how long different weeks felt. Weeks that contained more novel activities, even small ones like taking a new route to work or trying a different lunch spot, were judged significantly longer. Weeks that repeated a rigid schedule felt shorter, even when people worked fewer hours. The landmark effect does not require parachuting from an airplane. Tiny departures from routine are enough to stretch subjective time. Now, return to the woman in the grocery store, still staring at the pumpkins. Her summer did not vanish because time itself sped up. It vanished because every Tuesday looked like every Thursday. She drove the same roads, ate the same breakfasts, scrolled the same apps, and solved the same problems until the season left no distinct footprint. But there is a second piece to the puzzle that makes the acceleration feel even stronger as the years accumulate. When you are 5 years old, a single summer is 1/20th of your entire life, an almost unimaginable fraction. When you are 40, that same summer is 1/80th of your life, a thin slice that the arithmetic of existence makes feel smaller. This proportional theory does not replace the landmark theory. It amplifies it. Together, the two mechanisms create a powerful illusion that the tape of living speeds up as the reel gets longer. Yet, if the proportional theory were the whole story, every year should feel predictably shorter, and no adult year could ever feel long again. But even a 60-year-old can have a year that feels monumental, like the year they moved to a new city or became a grandparent. So the acceleration is not a fixed law. It is a tendency that responds to how you spend your attention and how you build your days. Attention is the gatekeeper of memory, and whatever does not pass through the gate cannot become a landmark. If you answer emails while eating lunch and do not taste the food, your brain records nothing distinctive about that meal. If you drive home on autopilot, thinking only about tomorrow's meeting, the journey leaves no trace. A day can feel long in the moment but short in memory, because the feeling of duration and the memory of duration rely on different processes. The feeling of duration is stretched by waiting, boredom, pain, and novelty that demands high attention. So a frantic day packed with 10 similar phone calls may feel long while it happens but collapse into a single memory label, another day of calls. Conversely, a quiet day with one deeply absorbing activity can leave a single rich memory that makes the day feel significant in hindsight. The brain's memory systems treat intense and novel events as worth preserving because those events could signal new threats, opportunities, or lessons. A cluster of neurons in the midbrain releases a signal when something surprising or important occurs, and that signal says, in effect, mark this moment. In childhood, almost everything qualifies as surprising or important, so the signal fires often, and the memory shelves fill quickly. With age, the world becomes more predictable, and the signal fires less frequently unless we deliberately seek out unpredictability. This does not mean the brain is broken. It means the brain is efficient, but the efficiency carries a hidden cost. The cost is a life that vanishes from memory because it was never fully noticed in the first place. Now consider an uncomfortable implication. If you repeat the same year 20 times, you have not lived 20 years. You have lived 1 year 20 times. The feeling that time is accelerating is not just a quirk of perception. It is a warning light on the dashboard of your life. That warning light becomes visible every time you catch yourself saying something you do not remember deciding. You reach for your phone without remembering why, and 10 minutes disappear. You complete a task you cannot recall starting, and the absence of memory makes the hour feel stolen. The thief is not time itself. The thief is the repetition that starves the memory system of the distinct markers it needs. But wait, there is a complication that makes the story more interesting and more hopeful. Not all novelty has the same power to expand subjective time, and some of the strongest time-stretching experiences are not the ones we chase. The reminiscence bump is a well-documented finding. When older adults are asked to recall life events, they recall a disproportionate number from between ages 15 and 25. This is the period when most people form their identity, leave home, fall in love, find their first serious work, and encounter major failures and recoveries. The reminiscence bump is not explained solely by brain development. It is shaped by the density of emotionally significant transitions. The years that feel longest in memory are not necessarily the happiest years, but they are the years when you became someone slightly different. This suggests that the way to stretch time is not to chase empty variety, but to keep encountering situations that challenge your sense of who you are. Learning a new instrument, listening to a perspective that shakes your assumptions, or caring for someone whose needs are unfamiliar all force the memory system back into high-resolution recording. The same activity that feels effortful and uncomfortable in the moment becomes the richest source of remembered time. Now, the dramatic question that opened this exploration returns with its sharpest edge. Why can the feeling of a full life shrink in memory while a difficult year expands? Because the retrospective clock measures the number of times your brain had to build a new model of the world. When the model does not change, time collapses. When the model must be rebuilt, time expands. That is why a year spent in recovery, grief, or learning can feel painfully slow while it passes but enormous when you look back. It is also why a year of comfort and ease can feel pleasant in the moment, but leave you staring at pumpkins in October, wondering where the year went. The acceleration you feel is not a failure of your brain. It is a signal from your memory system that you have been processing life through the same worn pathways for too long. Now we arrive at the deepest reversal, the insight that changes the meaning of the grocery store moment. The sensation that time is speeding up is not the problem it appears to be. It is an honest internal signal that the balance between routine and novelty has tipped too far toward routine. The feeling of loss is real, but the feeling is not a verdict. It is a message that you can read and respond to. The mistaken belief is that time acceleration is an unavoidable consequence of getting older. But the evidence points towards something far more practical. It is a consequence of getting predictable. When you are young, the world makes you unpredictable by throwing new situations at you, whether you want them or not. When you are older, unpredictability becomes a choice you must make deliberately, and that choice is often uncomfortable. The choice to disrupt your own patterns is the closest thing you have to a clock you can wind backward. This does not mean every day must be a carnival. The research on landmark density shows that even small novelties accumulate into a perceptibly longer year. Changing your route to work, cooking an unfamiliar recipe, speaking to a stranger, reading outside your usual genre, or learning a single new skill can seed enough memory landmarks to slow the rush. But there is one more twist that prevents this insight from becoming a self-help cliché. You cannot chase novelty while remaining so anxious about wasting time that you never sink into deep attention. A day packed with new but shallow activities will feel fractured, not rich, and may leave less memory weight than one deep conversation or one sustained struggle with a meaningful problem. The real antidote to vanishing time is not frantic variety. It is what psychologists sometimes call psychological presence. Presence plus novelty is the combination that turns a day into a durable memory that you can hold on to months later. Now return one final time to the woman's standing in the grocery aisle, her hand still on the cart. She is no longer frightened because she understands that the missing summer was not stolen by a malicious clock. The summer disappeared because each Tuesday felt so much like the Thursday before it that her brain stopped writing new pages in the story of her life. She can change the next season not by doing more, but by doing a few things differently enough to matter. She picks up a vegetable she has never cooked before, places it in her cart, and the first small landmark of autumn is created. The pumpkin decorations no longer mock her. They mark the beginning of a stretch of time she intends to notice. The acceleration of time is a genuine psychological phenomenon, supported by converging evidence about memory, attention, novelty, and the proportional framing of experience. But it is not a cage. It is a symptom that can guide you back toward a life that feels longer not because the years slow down, but because they fill up. And the filling up begins with a single question you can ask yourself tonight. What today was different enough to be remembered tomorrow?